got cats fighting at my
Buffalo?
feet. So,
Alan,
Devin, I've got cats at my feet fighting at the moment.
Oh, really?
but how many cats do you have?
Just two.
Too many.
Oh, okay.
Too many
That's
cats.
not too many.
Enough.
Two's a good start.
Not enough.
No,
Not
two's
enough.
a good start to cats. On any day, I don't know how many cats you have. I just assume it's 12, and you're only showing us 2 of the 10, or 2 of the 12.
12 sounds like a good number. That's
Doesn't
what I'm
it,
working
though?
towards. It
I've
does.
seen your space. That's enough for, like, 1 cat per 5 feet, or something like that.
We are about as far away from When Harry Met Sally as we can be. Yeah, I'm going to pull that graphic in quick, and then we'll get started.
Dope.
Okay.
Why was it? Did the cat hop up on your table, Ryan?
Before, yeah, no. Albie just jumped up on the desk and he buried his face in a few things. And I'm like, no. And yeah.
I never asked you this, but was he named from the Flight of the Conchords song?
No. So at the shelter, his name was actually Alabaster
Okay.
because he's a white cat. You know,
Great.
Alabaster.
I see
Yeah.
what they did there.
So we just shortened it to Albie.
That makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
You're so disappointed in that, Devin.
I am. I was really hoping it was the Flight of the Conchords song.
So disappointed.
Yeah. Well,
Oh, well.
that's his life. So.
We tried.
You'll get over it. Hey, everybody. Welcome to You Have to Watch This podcast. I'm Alan.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Devin.
And each week on You Have to Watch This podcast, we pick a film that one of us, at least one of us, has never seen before. This week is my pick, and I picked the Rob Reiner film When Harry Met Sally, starring Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan. A film that Devin and Ryan had not seen, correct?
Correct.
Partly, yes.
Partly, okay.
See, I've seen the scene. Like I've seen the scene everyone's seen.
Yeah, everyone's seen the scene. So we'll get into that shortly, but before we do, we like to start off the show by catching up on things that we've watched in pop culture, and we have a lot to get through for this segment because I think we each have 2 things that we want to talk about. But before we get into When Harry Met Sally, we're going to talk about the big sci-fi release over on Netflix. All spoiler free. We're going to talk a bit about Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon. Okay, that's all I've got to say about Rebel Moon. Yeah.
No more time.
It was okay. So this is This was Zack Snyder's potential Star Wars film. It's pretty much the 7 Samurai in space, or as a lot of people called it in Ryan's comments, Bug's Life in space.
I mean, that's seriously what it was. I remember watching it and I said out loud to Kristen, like, this is Bug's Life. Like, as soon as they walked into the bar.
Yeah.
Like, same premise. Same premise.
Well, I mean, so is Bug's Life is just Seven Samurai.
Yeah.
So
Still. Yeah.
it was okay.
I have a question for you guys. Name
Yes.
any one character's name.
I only saw it once, so I can't do
Yeah,
that.
me
I couldn't
too.
I couldn't do that to a movie I liked, though.
But like
at
even
the
when you
same
watch
time.
Star Wars, you're like, Han Solo. Like that's a catchy name. Like with this one, it's like the shirtless one, or like the one with the swords.
Or the guy who played Cyborg and then nothing else.
Right. I don't know. I didn't like this. I know that there's an extended version coming out because of course there is. I really don't want to watch it, guys. Don't make me do it. I will, but don't make me do it.
That just makes me mad at the fact that, like, oh, look, here's what the release, and oh no, there's another one coming out that's longer. Like this premiered on Netflix. Netflix pretty much let him do whatever he wanted. Why not just release the longer one first and let that be the actual thing?
Pump up
Like, do
those
we have
streaming
to do
numbers,
this
baby.
again?
Yeah, you gotta
Do we
get
have
them
to
views.
do this again?
I don't
Now
get that
it's a
either.
gimmick.
So
Nah.
But I am invested enough in it to watch the second one because I'm like, but I still want to see where it's going because
You also want to see
that
horny robot.
What?
Horny
I want
robot.
more. I want more of the robot. I want more of the
want to see
robot.
here.
Anthony,
I want more of that actor.
You can't put Anthony Hopkins in a thing and then not use him. What is this? The Thor movies? Like, come on. Like,
That was my biggest disappointment. Like, I really like him, and he was only in it for what, like a total of 3 minutes. So he better
Yeah.
be in it a lot in the next one. because I really want to know how he got the crown of weeds.
All right, moving on. Ryan, you watched another thing on Netflix that you told us in private that you were having trouble getting through. You watched Leave the World Behind.
Did you
I
actually
never
get through
finished it.
You never finished
did.
it? Okay.
It was on it.
You picked that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Devin, you go. Sorry.
So I picked the thing that everyone's boomer parent is talking about right now. Guys, I watched Leave the World Behind. It's fine. I totally get why people would be like weird about this movie. I thought it was good. I went into it with zero expectations and zero cultural anything behind it. I didn't know what kind of conspiracies would pop out afterwards. I didn't know what kind of social discourse it would cause. It almost feels like it's built to have. It almost feels like it's like paste your political opinion here, and then the movie kind of goes however you want it to go based on what your political opinion is.
Okay.
Which is great.
It feels like, you guys ever seen
Not
that
really.
South Park episode where the kids write a book called The Poo That Took a Pee,
Oh yeah.
and every political side of it's like, well, this is the most left-leaning book I've ever read. And they're like, well, I don't know what book you read. This is the most conservative book I've ever read. It's what this movie is. It's everyone's political opinion. Put yours there. You're gonna love it. I thought it was good. I liked it. We'll probably do it on the podcast just because I like making Ryan suffer.
Put your conspiracy theory here.
Yes,
Like that's
yes,
pretty much
it's-
what the movie is.
It is exactly what the movie is. And you know what?
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah. It's based off.
Wonka, not together. I liked it. It was fun.
Yeah. Okay, so I got a little mad at first when I first started watching it because it's tonally very different from any other Willy Wonka movie in existence.
Good.
But then the more I leaned into it, the more I'm like, no, I want a Wonka movie like this. Like, they got the tone really, really right. I loved it.
I rewatched Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory the other night because I've had Pure Imagination stuck in my head since I saw Wonka.
As you should.
And there's enough of the Gene Wilder Willy Wonka in Timothy Chalamet's performance, but I wanted more. Like, there are just little moments that you can see Gene Wilder coming through, like a little bit of the craziness, a few of the mannerisms. Watching Willy Wonka, it feels like he's like in that movie. It's all just a con, like a lot of the stuff that he did in Wonka was.
Yeah.
Because at the end, like, that's when you see the Willy Wonka that you know from the new one, like when he's pure and like excited for Charlie. Don't see any of the Johnny Depp Willy Wonka at all.
Any of him.
No, and that's fine. I enjoyed it. The music was interesting. Like, I like some songs. I don't know how I feel about the lyrics. There's chocolate and then there's chocolate.
Oh no, I liked it. It sounds so like snooty, right? Like, there's chocolates and then there's chocolates, my boy. Like, I don't know, it's that. I don't know. I liked it.
Overall, the film was good. Like, from the filmmakers of Paddington 2, it's exactly what I wanted it to be.
I'm gonna put my flag down. This might be my favorite Wonka movie.
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah.
In the chat, Romana versus the game says, "Did not know there were going to be songs. What a surprise!" They didn't market it as a musical at all.
No.
And that's all it is. It's a straight up musical.
Yeah, and like maybe like 3 seconds into the trailer, they're making what looks like it could be a chorus line, but they don't like give you that it's songs at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just love that the director who has worked on Paddington. I'm really curious if he worked on Downton Abbey, because there's just so many people from Downton Abbey that show up in his movies.
Is there really?
Yeah, the accountant was one of the butlers at Downton Abbey.
That's fun.
So, one of the things I watched that I was trying to talk about before, I watched The Creator on Hulu.
Tell me.
It's going to be one of my next picks for the show. Might be my favorite movie of 2023.
Wow.
because it does everything that I like about sci-fi right. It's lower budget, cheaper cameras, but it's still a compelling story, and it looks fantastic.
It looked like what I wanted Rebel Moon to be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very similar in concepts, very different in execution.
Good.
Because
Good.
you can tell everything in Rebel Moon that was shot on green screen. This one's a little bit more difficult. And this is from Gareth Edwards, who was the director of Rogue One and Godzilla. That makes it sound like it was a Rogue One versus Godzilla movie. No, the Star Wars Rogue One. Yeah.
I'd be all right with that.
Godzilla Rogue One. That's a sequel to Minus One. But yeah, this is going to be coming up soon on my picks for the show because I liked it that much.
That's awesome.
And then Devin, you also watched all of the Hunger Games movies, and
All of the Hunger Games.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Why?
So if it
I
makes
was
you feel
actually
better,
thinking the same thing.
so that was what we did on Christmas. Actually, we did it Christmas/Boxing Day. That was what we had done, and we had just come off of Rebel Moon, and I gotta tell you guys, like the mixture of like watching Rebel Moon and then watching the Hunger Games is like eating literal garbage and then going to McDonald's. It's so good. Like the movies were really good. I really enjoyed all of the Hunger Games movies. I didn't like the last one so much, I think. I'm still very firmly Team Gale after watching all of them. I still think Pete is a shit. And I'm gonna make all of us watch all of these movies at some point so we can discuss it. Because you guys all haven't. I think Ryan has seen all of them based on his reactions, right?
I've seen the first one.
Oh, you have a whole world to go.
I've
No, I
seen
don't.
I've seen the first two,
Okay, got it.
and that was like back when they first came out, so it's been years.
Got it.
But yeah, I'm down for a binge episode where we watch all of these.
Heck yeah, man.
Because remember, we have our Oscar bet coming up here soon.
We do have our Oscar bet.
I think they just announced when nominations are going up, so we have
I'm
20
excited.
days. 20 days to start watching things that are going to be nominated for Oscars and then go from there.
Good.
Okay. The last thing that I have. Oh no, Ryan, you had something else. I need to start writing everything down because I pull it all and then I forget. Ryan, you watched Final Destination 6?
No,
Just Final Destination?
I just pulled a poster of one that didn't exist because I wanted to tell you guys. I had the Final Destinations. Would you stop? The Final Destination movies were my biggest fear because they hit the actual anxiety that I have of like just random crap happening to you, of like different things. So I saw the first one when it first came out, and it literally like almost made me have a panic attack, almost. And I was like, I'm done with these movies. Like, I get that they can get kind of silly, but these deaths are too accidentally possible for me to like enjoy these storylines. So Kristen decided to binge them over between, the Christmas New Year's break, and I walked in on 3, and I'm like, this is cartoonish violence. Like, this is cartoonish. Like, these people don't have bones. They're water balloons. They just pop. And I was laughing through it. And she's like, you haven't seen these. And I explained the whole thing. And she goes, we need to watch these. I'm like, just not the first one. And she goes, yeah, the first one's a bit more serious than the rest of them. So I watched 2 through 5. I love these movies. So I went from like absolutely staying away from these things, not wanting to deal with them because I thought they would trigger like my actual anxiety, and I was laughing through them because the deaths are ridiculous, and these people are just made of like blood balloons and they just pop whenever things happen. So I just wanted to get that out there, that like I actually enjoy like movies that I considered to be like the series I would never touch.
That's cool. I mean, you and I had very different binges this break than it looks like.
Yeah, so I just wanted to get that out there. And 6s might be happening. I have no idea. I just wanted to throw a poster up there that would like fill the spot without having it be one movie.
Yeah, Yeah, you guys both binge series. I started a binge not on a series but on a person. Because I watched the documentary Albert Brooks Defending My Life, which is a documentary about comedian, screenwriter, director, and actor Albert Brooks.
Okay.
It's half of it's a documentary about his career and starting off like doing comedy on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. The other half of it is just what him and director Rob Reiner called My Dinner with Albert. It's just the two of them in a restaurant talking about about his life. And they go through like all of his career and like pretty fascinating stuff. Like, did you know Albert Brooks was born Albert Einstein? Like that's his that was his name. They talk about that. I learned about this from Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend because they were both on there, and Devin, I think it's a fantastic episode that you'll love. But the biggest thing that I took from this documentary was I need to watch more Albert Brooks movies. So I started watching them. I'm going to go through them all, but I watched Lost in America, which Devin, how much Albert Brooks do you know?
I Googled his name. I see that he's involved.
He's the dad in Finding Nemo. He's he's the dad of Finding Nemo. He's the villain in the Simpsons movie. He's
in Drive.
He's the villain in Drive.
He's Jacob the Tiger in Dr. Dolittle.
Yeah.
No, I don't know anything about him.
Okay. These films are going to be right up your alley. His sense of humor is
good.
Right up, like, you're going to love it. Ryan, I think you'll like it to a point.
Suffering through it. Gotcha.
But the reason I'm leading off, ending the segment with this is the documentary is directed by Rob Reiner, who also directed this week's film, When Harry Met Sally.
Oh, hey.
Look, segues. I'm talking about what year was it? 1989 film When Harry Met Sally, starring Billy Crystal, Meg Ryan, Carrie Fisher, and Bruno Kirby. This is directed by Rob Reiner, as we mentioned, and written by Nora Ephron. Devin, you've watched another Nora Ephron film on this podcast. Do you know which one it was?
Is it You've Got Mail?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Nailed it.
In Harry Met Sally, Harry and Sally have known each other for years and are very good friends, but they fear sex would ruin the friendship. That's a horrible description for this movie.
That's a really bad description.
That's a really bad. That is very bad.
Was that IMDb?
That was the first description on IMDb. Let me see if there's a better one.
Sally goes from hating Harry to eventually marrying him.
That's every rom-com. Don't do that either.
Pretty much.
Every rom-com.
Like the last sentence of this description is probably the best one. Can a man and woman be friends without sex getting in the way?
Oh, I want to come back to this then.
Yeah, we will. But
yeah, can we?
Yeah, no, we will. We will. Like, we'll circle back to that. But like, the rest of the descriptions are very long-winded. So I'm not going to read those. But so this is a film that I have seen several times before. I always liked You've Got Mail, so I came to this one later. I've always liked Billy Crystal. This is one of the big three rom-coms with Meg Ryan that I've seen. I've really liked the sense of humor of this, the style, the interludes with the couples talking about how they met and their stories. Really is a nice device that I've seen used in other things like Ted Lasso, which is always fun to come back to. But yeah, I like this movie enough that I bought a poster for it. Not because I knew we were going to do it for the podcast and wanted it behind me. Definitely not why I bought it. But yeah, I enjoy this movie. I think the sense of humor is great. I love the chemistry between Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan, even though I'm used to the chemistry between Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, which we'll talk about a bit later.
We'll have to.
But I'm curious. Ryan, you said you have seen parts of this before, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, sure. No, saw the first 20 minutes and turned it off. I mean, I saw the first 20 minutes and turned it off. That was like 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Why?
I
Why'd you turn it off?
I figured that the whole movie was based around one topic, and I was like, if this is going to be an hour and a half of this, then this is going to be beaten to death by the first hour, and I don't care to watch any more of it.
Okay.
Was the one topic that can a man and woman be friends?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I mean, kinda it is.
Well, we're going to talk about that
Okay.
as we get into more detail about how I progress through watching this.
Okay.
Oh, you have a journey. I love a journey for you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good.
Devin, what did you think of When Harry Met Sally?
I saw, so all I had seen up until this point, obviously, is just the scene. And I had, okay, I do the Devon thing, right? Where I have a whole movie in my head because I've seen a scene and I basically know what the movie is. I did this with RoboCop, I did this with Starship Troopers.
Mhm.
I've also done this with When Harry Met Sally. The movie I made in my head is that Harry is a busy businessman with too much time, and Sally is this wild, free-spirited lady who's willing to do anything in public, and she teaches him to loosen up. He teaches her to become more rigid, and together they have this loving relationship. That was the movie I built in my head.
So you thought this was a Hallmark movie?
Yeah, basically. I mean, look, up until when you guys had me watch more romance or rom-com movies, basically every rom-com movie was a Hallmark movie in my head. So this was very consistent for what I thought these plots were. But imagine my surprise when the movie certainly wasn't that. And when it opened on an old couple talking about how they met. And I mean, I'm going to be honest, I really liked this movie. It had my attention the whole time. There's so much good about this movie. And I'm really, really, really excited to dig into the things I liked, but then also the things I don't like, because there's really one really big thing I did not like about this movie, but also kind of loved.
Is it something we should start off on?
Yes, it is.
Okay, let's dive into it. What is it?
The second he opened his freaking mouth, I hated Billy Crystal's character. I hated him.
Oh, really?
His whole, like, I can't tell if this is like, these are hilarious jokes in the 90s, guys, or if
80s.
he's just 80s, right, it's 89. These are hilarious jokes in the 80s, guys, and you're just too 2023 to understand it, Devin. Or if, like, he's just supposed to come off as a shit, like, the whole time. But, like, up until almost the very end when he's eating ice cream on New Year's Eve alone, I, like, do not care about what's happening to him and thinks he deserves it. Like, the whole Helen stuff, I sympathize. I do sympathize with that, how he, like, feels deeply and there's, like, emotional undercurrent. I like that. But anytime he opens his mouth and he's, like, trying to be quippy or funny, I'm like, gross, stop, gross.
Okay.
Do you guys have that? Like, tell me I'm crazy. Or
I think
tell me that I don't understand.
he grows on me a little bit faster. I think that first scene when they're in the car and he's like spitting the whatever seeds out the window.
Grape seeds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're not supposed to like him there.
Oh, oh gosh.
The biggest distraction for me in that scene is his hairpiece, because he, like Billy Crystal, it doesn't work. Like college age, like aging him down to be college age is comical in this. Meg Ryan, it kind of works. Like she doesn't really age up, or they don't really have to de-age her at all. But with him, they have to do something with his hair. And it just, like, I don't know why they didn't just put a ball cap on him, because he's Billy Crystal and he loves the Yankees anyway. So just put a ball cap on him. But no, they had to go with that horrible, horrible wig. I think it's intentional that you're not supposed to like him
Okay.
at first, but then as they become closer, you're supposed to become closer to both of them and appreciate them both more.
Yeah, that's that, and I mean, a lot of the stuff that he talks about, and this is one of the reasons why I turned this movie off the first time I tried to watch it a few years ago, is that the things that he's talking about yeah, they're kind of jokes, and we're supposed to kind of like laugh at the ridiculousness of it. You would be surprised how mainstream with quote unquote regular guys those points of views were held by.
So, give me one sec, because I referenced a book.
Oh, getting scholarly on us, Devon.
Oh no. Yeah.
Was-
So there was a book called "Men Are from Mars, Women Are from Venus," and I
Yes.
think it came out just before this movie. If I
I remember that being all over the news and my
Yeah.
parents and teachers talking about it.
Yeah, and it really has like that same tone, doesn't it? It's like men and women can't be friends. They can't. Like I don't think it's true at all. Like, and I don't like the ethos that this book is pushing, and it seems very of that time.
This is something that I was kind of thinking that we'd be touching on later, but I feel this movie does something that I see a lot. Like this is a movie that I can point to as an example of a thought and kind of and like a point of view that I have that makes it easier to explain.
Okay.
This movie does overall assumptions about just everyone when everyone's on a scale. This movie kind of tries to make it black and white, and Billy Crystal's character at the beginning is like either, you know, it's like, no, they just can't, because that part, you know, like sex gets in the way. And when in the reality, in like this movie points at the fact that a lot of people try to make their worldview easy by putting things in either, you know, black or white or binary or just off and on, when in, you know, reality, that's only a segment of the population is like that. Because I mean, like, you've got people out there who have no drive for that at all.
Yeah.
And they don't fit in that narrative of what he's talking about in this movie. And I like, this movie is a perfect example of like, look, do you see all the assumptions that are being made in this? Like, this isn't reality.
Okay, no. So the one thing I will say is I actually really like that you brought that up, because I don't think the movie talks about black and white in that way. And I was worried in the beginning it would. Because if you look at the first couple that they talk to, goes, well, I saw her walk into a diner, and I knew it was love. And 2 weeks later, we were married.
They get as they go along, and it helps the movie go along, because those act as like little act breaks to
Like, how, not even like as individual characters, but like my favorite part of this movie is, and this is something that I didn't craft it, like, I won't ever look at like Billy Crystal and go, that man is a romantic lead in any movie, at all. Or like the couple, I wouldn't believe you until you see them on screen together, and it really does jump off at you. Like, I had these moments where I was like at the same time, which is like something I don't know that I could do in real life, let alone in front of a camera. But like the chemistry that these two have makes.
Go ahead, Ryan.
I just think it's his acting style. I was trying to think of it today, because, like, as a prime example, the lowest that he's at, when at the end, when he's going through that speech that I've heard before on audio tracks, that, to be honest, his range is not very wide in this for me. Like, I guess it's just a me thing, or because, like, like, I feel like there are scenes in particular after he's after the scene where he blows up at his friends because he just saw Helen, and he's outside of their house after helping them move in. He's coming across to me.
Interesting.
And so, like, I love Meg Ryan in this. It's just, I love Billy Crystal's acting. I mean, his voice acting. I love it. Can think of.
I wonder if he's a lot more zany. Like, the Billy Crystal in this is a lot different than the Billy Crystal in City Slicker.
Them since I was like 8.
But those, like, that Billy Crystal is chaotic, and that's when he's like, analyze this. You have Crystal in what you get here. Mike Wazowski from Monsters Inc. Like, it's like, the one that doesn't really fit the pattern is Harry. Like it is, like when he's singing the karaoke at Sharper Image, which is such a weird sentence in 2024. He's done a lot of Broadway and some. Like the thing I know Billy Crystal from the most outside of this, and he like the best thing about him hosting the Oscars is he always sings the song about all of the movies that got nominated that year. But do you guys like? There was a whole debate last year about is Martin Short funny? Do you guys like as
that might have been another reason why I turned this movie off a few years ago was just like
I think you guys realized you did this. You
Oh.
prepared me for this when you had me watch The Holiday, and Jack Black couldn't be Jack Black, you know, in love, and I have to be okay with that.
Yeah. So
Thank you.
So in the chat, friend of the show Chad asks, what about
Chad.
whole rant in Carrie Fisher and Bruno Kirby's apartment where he's just like going off on seeing her and like just but
even then, yeah.
that's when he gets to show his crystal.
and
Well done.
and even
That was
and even then he was kind of, I felt like he was pulling back a little bit for the sake of the fact of what the movie was and what his character was, because he definitely could have gone off more on that. But yeah, I mean that's argument can be made from that scene as a counterpoint. It'd be like, okay, well, he wasn't.
Yeah. Restrained, fine, but
Yeah.
If his character was meant to be portrayed that way, that's fine. It just didn't work for me.
Mhm.
There's that. But that scene where I guess he was, more restrained. Right before he does that, they show him, and this is what I was going to say when it cut out. Right before that happened, they do a close-up of his face, and he twitches, and it was almost kind of like, hey, look, here's this real subdued guy, right before what's blowing up for him, and you can see in his facial expressions he snaps.
Yeah.
And then that's when he goes off. Which at the end of the day, I'll just say that the way that they portrayed the character, the way Billy Crystal portrayed this character, it just didn't work for me.
Okay.
That's pretty much just it.
I had a moment in it where I said, I turned to Romanix, we were both watching together. I said, I think my favorite part about him is her.
Yeah.
And I think I was supposed to say that. Like, I think, like, if Nora Ephron had heard me say that, she would be really pumped to hear that. Because I think that's how they're supposed to be. I think they're supposed to balance each other out. And the fact that they both see something so valuable in each other that they're willing to go through all this together is kind of the point.
Yeah.
And my favorite scenes of him have to do with her.
Yeah,
Like,
100%.
This movie made, I went from being like, yep, this is what I thought it was. Darn it. And I'm kind of like, okay, decent line, but whatever. And it wasn't until the scene where he's pacing back and forth behind Meg Ryan, while she's trying to read every address before she puts it into the mailbox, and he just gets frustrated to the point where he just grabs it and throws it in the mailbox.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I get it. I see what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're showing the little relationship moments that build bonds between people. And they're showing the little things you don't normally see in these movies. And it's like, it's the, for lack of a better way to say it, it's the little cute moments that no one remembers 5 minutes after.
Well, and
Like
he
that.
brought those up, like at the very
Yeah.
end, where he's like, when he was talking about the things that he loves about her in that big speech. I love that because you saw that happen in real time. Like you
Yeah.
saw them build that up.
Yeah, and that was the moment that was like, I think I might actually like this movie. And then they started doing more of that, and then that's when I actually started to like it. So I mean, this movie ended with me enjoying it, as opposed to like, oh my god, this is all wrapped around one question. But what I like in this movie is it drove home a point that I feel like most people in long-term relationships knows that it's true, and it's the key building block to a long-term relationship, and that is it needs to be a friendship. The person you're with needs to be your best friend. And this movie shows that for these two people, the trajectory this storyline took them on was the only way that was going to happen between these two. Was that they needed to build that friendship first.
Mm-hmm.
That was the only way that these two personalities were going to work together.
Yeah, and I think that plays into the title of the film. Like, yes, they meet in the first 5 minutes of the movie, but like the rest of it is like the whole movie is like building to that realization that they want to be together.
Agreed. And I like that. I don't know. I never actually thought deeply about the When Harry Met Sally part of it all, but they do kind of keep meeting, don't they?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
And I love the thing. Like, and I think that's one of the things that kind of pulled me in. It was pretty quick. Was that they keep meeting each other under different circumstances. At first, he's in a relationship and she's single. Then, she's in a relationship and he's getting married. And I love like that they like not consciously, but they will kind of check in with each other, like kind of periodically. And
Yeah.
the fact that like that airport moving walkway conversation that Billy Crystal has with her doesn't make her mace him in the face immediately was totally fine. And then it was okay for the next check-in.
Sorry, I got distracted there for a minute because my computer just kept giving me notifications that something was plugging in and unplugging from my computer. I couldn't figure out what it was, so I had to go in and mute the notification. So if you're watching live and heard that, I am sorry. But it appears that my external hard drive that I have all the graphics on for this is just unplugged. So that's fun.
Surprise.
So we talked a lot about Billy Crystal. We haven't talked much about Meg Ryan.
Man, she's perfect.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say. She's
There-
awesome.
It like watching this movie, it's hard. It's completely believable that even somebody who doesn't believe that, like, it's very easy to see how somebody falls in love with Meg Ryan in this because her character is perfect.
I love that. I mean, Billy Crystal was right, and he brought this up, or his character brought this up, where he's like, nothing affects you, does it? Nothing does. And then that moment where she calls him crying, you kind of break a little bit. 'Cause you went, oh, there she goes. And then she's in a relationship at that point, but she doesn't call that person. She calls him. And like, it really, I don't know. She's so good. She's so good at it. I mean, I think, yeah, that's all I got, man. She's like perfect in this movie.
We
I like her in this better than the other one.
Then you've got Mel.
Yes.
Okay. We haven't talked about the scene yet. Devon, what was your introduction to the scene? Because you said that's all you knew about this movie. What do you know that from?
Oh.
The scene, for anyone watching or listening who doesn't know what we're talking about, is the I'll have what she's having scene in Katz's diner.
All right, so whenever I was living out in Los Angeles, I do the studio tours, right?
Mhm.
That's just what you do when you're out there. And one of the studio tours, wherever this was made, this is like the big scene they show, like as a, this was Columbia Pictures at the time, which is Paramount now, or then, which is Sony now.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the trajectory?
Yes.
So at the beginning of every studio tour, they go like, Sony Studios, where movies are born, and then they show you like a clip of all of them, and they like showed the When Harry Met Sally clip in full on like this diner scene, and I think that's probably the first place I've seen it.
Okay. It's one of those iconic scenes that it gets referenced in everything.
Mm-hmm.
And the scene has come up recently because there was a tribute to Billy Crystal at the Kennedy Center. Kennedy Center. Billy Crystal was one of the Kennedy Center honors recipients at the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. It was Billy Crystal, Renee Fleming, Barry Gibb, Queen Latifah, and Dionne Warwick. But for Billy Crystal's segment at the ceremony, which if you don't know is a huge ceremony in Washington D.C. The president comes, a bunch of past recipients of the awards come out. They had a lot of people speak for Billy Crystal, and these are just the few that I saw clips of. Robert De Niro came out and talked about Billy Crystal because of their work on Analyze This and Analyze That. Whoopi Goldberg came out and talked about their work with Comedy Relief and paid tribute to
What was coming?
No.
Like, imagine, no?
No.
No, I giggled this time. I knew the line was coming. I still giggled.
I mean, yeah, I giggled too, but I mean, I like Smootsy Poo better.
What's that one from?
Monsters Inc. Devin, come on, you're a millennial.
It has been so long.
There's so
Alan,
much
you're
wrong
back.
with that statement.
I don't know when I cut out, so yeah.
We covered, so you started talking about when he had mentioned that Billy Crystal wrote that line, and we
Okay.
covered for you.
Okay. So yeah, this is gonna be fun to edit because I'm still going live out to everyone. So
Oh, good.
yeah. So Meg Ryan came out and said that scene came really naturally to me. I really have Billy to thank for that. I've never actually been around anyone who made faking an orgasm easier. So thank you, Billy.
That's a good line.
Somehow, even a million years later, When Harry Met Sally is still at the top of everyone's list when people talk about their favorite rom-coms. For why that movie is still so resonant, Ryan praised director Rob Reiner's brilliant direction, Nora Ephron's perfect script, and Mark Scheinman's fantastic musical score. And then there's the chemistry. Chemistry is, well, no one really knows what it is, but Harry and Sally had it. And all I know is that acting with Billy was effortless and the characters just came alive. And just meeting him, I don't know how you could not love Billy Crystal.
Yeah. I mean, she's so right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was wondering then, where does this movie sit on your guys' favorite rom-coms list? Is this top, like Meg Ryan said?
Top 10.
Top 10?
Yeah.
Ryan?
I don't really know where to put it.
No?
Because
Don't forget to take out your trash cans.
I'm going to have to turn that off every Wednesday.
For some of the audience, they'll get this. Might be a little bit upset about it. To be honest, if I had the choice, rom-coms, I've never really thought about a rom-coms list, but if I had a choice between like this or Runaway Bride, which I know is not like that actress's top rom-com either, I'd probably still end up watching Runaway Bride.
Really?
Yeah. Like I like this now. So now that I've watched the whole thing, but I still have like a large first chunk of the movie that I'm not about. Like not because it's bad, just because I'm just kind of like clunking along because of the storyline.
I'm just scrolling through a list of top rom-coms here, and I gotta say, this one might be my number one.
Really?
I think it is. I think especially of the ones that we watched on this podcast, I think this is my number one. I had a lot of fun with this one, and I think that this is one that I would go back to.
Okay.
Like if someone's like, watch okay, Princess Bride doesn't count. All right.
No.
It made it. It's
That's
number
fantasy.
14 on this list. Yeah, it's fantasy. If someone's like, Devin, pick a pure rom-com for me, I think I'm picking this one, to be honest.
Okay. Like I said, this is probably top 10.
Yeah.
If I could come up with a list of 10, this is definitely in it.
We have to do this now. We need to come up with our 10.
I mean, Valentine's Day is next month, so
That's what we're doing.
We haven't done a list episode in a while, so I feel like we should do that again.
Yes.
So one of you said you had comments on the end of the film.
Yes, it's me.
Okay. What are your thoughts? Are you
So the
talking?
question that's
Are you talking about the final like interview with them or?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm talking about that they end up together at all.
Okay.
Because basically, when you meet them, the first thing that happens is Billy Crystal goes, "Men and women can't be friends. They'll, sex will get in the way. Men and women can't be friends." Then, the movie proceeded to show us that men and women can in fact be friends. They are great friends. They're awesome friends. Then the movie goes, "Just kidding. Men and women can't be friends," and then has them connect. And I was trying to think if there was another man and woman friend in this movie that would make the movie land on the men and women can be friends side of it, but it doesn't. It just means that men and women can't be friends because sex does get in the way, and that Billy Crystal in the beginning was ultimately right. Am I right in that interpretation of it?
I don't think you're wrong, but I don't think you're right. I think it's somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
I feel like the movie is saying you can be friends, but don't let your denial of don't be in denial about your true feelings.
And that if you genuinely are just friends, that's just fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Because that's okay. That's totally fine. Or is the movie saying you just can't be friends with Meg Ryan?
So, like, this movie doesn't take a stance because it wants you to make up your own mind on
You
it.
think
Because because at the end of the day, that's what it falls on. This movie can take a stance one way or the other, and half the people who see it aren't going to agree with it, because you are going to have people, men or women, whatever, who look at this and go, "Yeah, no, I could never." And then you'll have others who are like, "Yeah, no, I have like 5, women who are friends or something." So I mean, like, this is what I meant before at the very beginning, where it's like this movie is a perfect example of like, this is what happens that people unintentionally make life more difficult than it has to be when they think of these ridiculous rules that they think are universal when they're not.
Yeah.
And
All right.
and that's what I feel like Billy's character learns in the 12 years between meeting Sally for the first time and eventually confronting her at the New Year's Eve party. Where he kind of realizes that, like, this stupid rule he had when he was younger that he was trying to follow, it doesn't last. Well, it doesn't last. It doesn't work in reality.
Devin, where are you on the standpoint of can men and women be friends?
I have a lot of female friends. I think we can definitely be friends and just friends. I think it's weird to think otherwise.
Yeah, I do
What about
too.
you, Alan?
I'm in the same boat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so then it got me thinking, and I have one if you guys don't, but do you have any like weird rules that you guys heard someone say that you're like, that's not going to hold up to any kind of scrutiny in life? Because like men and women can't be friends, that's just a rule. And while you're thinking of one, if you might have one, I have one.
Okay.
I heard someone go one time, as a rule, I always go to bed early because nothing good happens after midnight. And I went, what?
You're friends
Guys,
with Ted Mosby?
Well, I mean,
it wasn't, it's past midnight now, and this is still happening. So clearly good stuff happening.
I mean, the only other thing I've heard that's even that like kind of runs into that is if you find yourself pulling $400 out of an ATM at 3 a.m, usually it's not for anything good.
All right, it's fair. I've never done that.
That's not my answer to this, but it just made me think of that.
The strangest thing that I've ever heard, and this isn't really like a life tip or like rule, but just like a travel one. Like if you need to stop somewhere, it's on the wrong side of the road, you just keep going. They don't try to cross the highway.
Fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I always stop. I cross.
I was in the Boy Scouts, so I heard some really weird things, and I don't really know what to pick for this. So I don't really know.
You just gesture broadly to the whole Boy Scouts manual, and you just go see this.
Just all of the weird things I heard from not the manual. I'm talking about from the individual people in it.
I was
Like-
in Cub Scouts for a while, and it kind of attracted people that had very strict life rules of.
Well, not even strict, just weird. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm talking like I knew a kid that recited the whole like early to bed, early to rise, and whatever the like end of that saying is. He would say that every morning, or like every night. So I'm talking
Oh
like
my.
that level of like I've heard a ton of different things like that throughout my life, and I just tend to ignore them. I just tend to
Did you
ignore.
Did you run into that guy later at an airport, and then
I-
later again at a party? No, it'll happen. Don't worry.
all right.
Devon.
So I have one more thing before we wrap this up. I hope you guys have been practicing because now we're going to do our best fake orgasm on camera.
Yes, let's do it.
No, I'm kidding. We're
I
not.
have-
We're not going to do that. We're not. No, we're not going to do that. I think that does it for When Harry Met Sally. I'm glad to hear that you like this, Devon.
I did very much so.
I feel like I know what the next rom-com is going to be, and it's going to be something very different from what we've done so far on the show.
Is it Phantom Thread?
Yes. No, it's not the Phantom
Good.
Thread. Although I would love to see a rom-com with Daniel Day-Lewis as the male lead.
Who doesn't, man?
Yeah.
He is just so dreamy.
Or no, I'll do you one better. A romantic comedy with Daniel Day-Lewis as the quirky best friend. Like have him be the Carrie Fisher role.
I want his role from There Would Be Blood as the quirky best friend.
You drink his milkshake.
Oh, he's so good.
That does it for this week's episode. Next week, it is Ryan's pick to pick a movie that Devon and I had never seen. Ryan, what is your pick?
I am picking The Ritual.
The Ritual. Okay.
Never heard
Did
of
I
it.
say that right? Did
Yeah.
I pronounce that right?
Ritual?
nailed it.
Yeah.
The Ritual.
Although if I say it again, it's going to just start sounding like sounds and not an actual word.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, I think that does it for this week's You Have to Watch This podcast. Thanks for joining us live on Wednesday nights, where I have to remember to turn off my Alexa so it doesn't go off in the middle of the show again.
love it.
We'll be going live on Wednesdays for the foreseeable future because I had some stuff come up with work that I will not be available on every Tuesday. So we're just going to stick to Wednesdays. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, where you can also see us live if you're out and about on the go. We will be going live there from now on as well, as long as it doesn't crap out my computer like it did tonight. You can also listen to You Have to Watch This podcast on all major podcasting platforms, including Spotify, Apple Music, and Amazon. So if you have an Alexa that likes to go off in the middle of your podcast, you can listen to us there. But just don't listen to us while you're podcasting. That's a little bit redundant. Until next time, for You Have to Watch This, I'm Alan.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Devin.
And I'll have what he's having.
That would make for a very awkward scene.